Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, the weather today is pretty calm. Bright, sunny, pretty warm, mid 80s, but nothing really exciting going on weather-wise around here. But there's definitely some exciting stuff going on around the country and around the world. We're probably getting into the time that gonna have to start doing most likely daily updates on the riots, protests stuff. We'll see. We'll see how long it lasts and how big it gets. I mean, I'll definitely be talking about other content, but certainly that is something that, unlike a lot of things that are going on around the world that are serious, this is something that can immediately directly affect some of you. And so that's why we need to pay attention to it. This big protest that they're not just what's happening now, but what is being planned in the next few days. They're calling it the No Kings protest, okay? They are saying now that they have 1,500 cities in America, 1,500 cities that they have events planned for. They're running newspaper ads all over the country. There's ads they're running on Facebook, Instagram, other places, trying to get people rounded up to come to these events. I suspect, because this is how they normally do things, the majority of these events, the majority of the things going on at these events will be mostly peaceful. You know, they really will be. I'm not saying that jokingly, but it probably will be mostly peaceful. But the odds of at least some, if not all of these events having pockets and aspects of them being violent, I think is increasingly good. Already cities like Austin, Dallas, Houston, Denver, New York City, Minneapolis, Boston, a few others, I think maybe Detroit, I can't remember exactly all of them, are already seeing. Last night it was reported that somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 cities were showing at least some level of, activists out on the street. Not all of them, certainly like LA, but definitely a big deal. And we need to be, you need to be vigilant. If these types of things happen in your area, I would certainly not engage. It's not worth it, okay? I mean, if you have to defend yourself because these activities are impeding upon you, that's different. But I would not go out and look for it. To me, you can get mad at me all you want. That's not weakness. They're doing this to try to get a reaction. Don't give them what they want. The 700 Marines have been deployed in LA. And then I've seen several things online today saying that some of the organizers there in LA are planning to kind of converge upon those Marines and attack them in whatever means that they're talking about. So the things are heating up there. It's in many areas looking like very much a war zone, which is exactly what I said a week or two ago was very likely going to happen. And, it's this back and forth. The left is saying that it's all happening because of, Donald Trump sending the troops in. Donald Trump is saying, hey, if I hadn't sent the troops in, it would be way worse. It's just this back and forth. And as much as some of you hate to hear this, I still believe this is all planned. This is all part of the plan. I want to show you a screenshot here of 3 conservative, Republican, popular influencers. Jack Posobiec, Matt Walsh, and Charlie Kirk, I think. I'm trying just off the top of my head. I think that's the 3. Anyways, I'm not bashing these guys. That's not the point here. But, during the whole, especially the Biden administration, remember how many times we would all say, oh, you can tell this is a coordinated effort because all of these supporters of Biden influencer, they would post almost the identical same story, the identical same thing. You've all seen the video of how the news media, like television news, where they're all repeating the same story, almost verbatim, right? You've heard that before. You've seen that. You've seen where, they're talking about whether it's trans issues or Black Lives Matter or whatever, they may make it sound like that post came from them, but if you go through, you can see where there's, half a dozen, 1,000, whatever, people that are just maybe rewriting a little bit and reposting it. So here's these three. These are three very large, big influencers in the conservative, Republican, pro-Trump arena. And all three of these posts are almost verbatim. They're all the same. And maybe they're all in on it. Maybe they're not all in on it. It's not a coincidence, though. I'm telling you that we live in a type of matrix. We live in it's kind of like the Truman Show, a very controlled environment. They have to make, one side pitted against the other, whether it's religion or race or political ideology or morals or whatever. They have to keep that going. They have to keep the commoners, the people, the peasants fighting amongst themselves so that they don't fight the people that we should be. And that way they can come in and they can rescue. They can be the savior. They've got the solution. I said this morning, and it's very true, there are things that are being discussed now by these conservative pro-Trump influencers that just a few years ago, there would have been massive outcries from the conservative, side of using technology to monitor Americans, using technology to secure things, beefing up security. It's interesting, even during the Trump campaign, there was outcry and demands for the FBI to be dismantled, that the federal government to not have any kind of federal law enforcement powers. They wanted the ATF and all these different federal agencies to be gone. That was a big thing during the Trump administration. Well, now it's flipped around and everyone's, we've got to have this great FBI because it can be reformed. And we've got these guys running the FBI that's going to reform it, even though I think most of you would admit that the things that they've said in public are lies about at least some things. Now we've got to support all of these federal agencies and support these federal officers and agents. And yes, we need to get rid of the illegals. And yes, that's going to take manpower. But it's interesting how the narrative has flipped in a lot of ways. Now we need drones that can fly around and facial recognition scan people and report back to AI computers and dispatch, law enforcement. We have to have, a nationwide identification system. We have to have that. We have to have one central database of all of Americans and all of their information so that we can verify that they're real Americans, right? And then eventually it'll be something like, if you're a good American, or if you've, not supported illegals, or if you've not supported Hamas, or if you've not supported, Israel, depending on who's president, if you've not done this or that, you'll get some extra benefits. You'll get a better rate on your loans. You'll get a little faster service and stuff. And before you know it, we'll have something similar, probably not identical, but something similar to China's social credit system. We're watching this stuff happen in real time. And it's amazing how no one is paying attention to that. That's why I think a lot of this stuff is distractions. Just like the stuff, and that this is happening from the left, but this conservative right does the same thing. We have to wake up and realize that we are living in a psyop, folks. I've been telling you this for years. For those of you that's been watching me for years, I've been telling you that for years. We're living in a psyop, and it's going to take discernment and that open eyes to see and the ears to hear to be able to figure out what is real and what isn't. Because just because something comes at you with a Bible and a cross, or an American flag, or, conservative red, or, that kind, doesn't mean that they're on our side, folks. Doesn't mean that they're doing what they're doing for freedom, for liberty, and for justice. And, they're not Superman out there. I'm not saying everybody's that way, but a lot more than you think are just playing a part in a big scheme. And we need to get ready. Now, things like these riots, or things like these, potential wars overseas, are they all part of this scheme? Yeah, sure. That doesn't mean that they don't affect us. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't get ready for this. These things, these riots, 1,500 cities, there's a good possibility that some of those cities are where you live, or very close to where you live. And you should prepare. You've got 4 days now before they start happening. They're already happening in some bigger cities. So I'd say that between now and then, we're going to see, just a progressive buildup. You need to make sure that you have your plan, evacuation plan if needed, how to get home. Do you have your communications nailed down between you and your spouse and your neighbors, loved ones, people around you? Have you stocked up? If you live in an area that could see a big increase, it may not be reasonable to go out to the store for a few days. You may kind of be sort of locked in for a while. Some of you that lived near the Black Lives Matter riots, you kind of already know how it affects you, how it's dangerous. And it's not always in just one little pocket. They kind of can spread out. And so with as many things that is being planned, and how big it seems like they're really trying to build this up, who knows how bad it's going to be. I mean, I don't think yet that we're talking apocalyptic level bad, but certainly bad enough that some of you could feel the very negative effects of it. And so you need to get ready. Stuff going on overseas, it's building. Who knows? I think eventually we will see a conflict between Israel and Iran, and that we will be involved in that. Will it happen tomorrow? Probably not. A few weeks down the road, maybe. But you need to be getting ready, because the world we live in is very different than what you've been used to your whole life. And it's all a big psyop. Folks, get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.